Alright guys, what's going on? Brian here, and this is my Impact Wrestling recap for last night's episode of Impact Wrestling. So let's get right into it. Overall, I thought the show was once again another solid show with a couple of good matches on it. So let's just get right into the recap. We had the opening match was the start of the GFW Tag Team Title Tournament. It was LAX, the current Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions, taking on Garza Jr. and Laredo Kid in what was a good opening matchup. The only problem that I had with this match is that I thought that Garza Jr. and Laredo Kid should have went over. They don't have to necessarily win the tournament, but I thought last night that they should have went over on LAX, and then that would set up a match where, you know, Garza Jr. and Laredo Kid could have an opportunity at the Impact Wrestling tag titles. But that was not the case, as LAX once again proved their dominance in the tag team division, and they beat Garza Jr. and Laredo Kid to advance in the GFW Tag Title Tournament. We had a Bruce Pritchard and Magnus segment, one of a couple of segments they had on Impact last night. Magnus basically just blamed Bruce Pritchard for him losing the GFW World Championship. Believe it was last week, or might have been was either last week or the week before. Looking at my notes here. Sorry guys. Yeah, it was last week. Pretty much, basically, Bruce Pritchard came back at him saying that, Magnus, you're no longer in contention. If you want to be in contention for the championship, you gotta earn it. Magnus said he'll do something about that. Going into the rest of the night, how would Magnus, or what would Magnus do? And we would find out later on in the night. We had Congo Kong taking on Braxton Sutter. This was a little bit more tougher test for Congo Kong since making his debut. Braxton Sutter gave a good fight, but it was not meant to be, as Congo Kong would beat Braxton Sutter 1-2-3, and then Congo Kong and KM they would beat up on Braxton Sutter, as Siena and Laurel Van Ness would make Ali watch. This would bring Mahabali Shera to the ring, and to even the odds, and they would chase away Siena, KM, Laurel Van Ness, and Congo Kong. This would lead to Braxton Sutter issuing a challenge for next week for a tag team match with him and Mahabali Shera versus Congo Kong and KM. So that is a match set for next week. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. We had, like I mentioned before, there was a couple of segments on Impact last night. One involving a video of Rockstar Spud basically just saying that he's going to defy doctor's orders, saying next week he's going to look for revenge on Swoggle for what Swoggle did to him a few weeks ago. Another segment was an interview segment with Karen Jarrett. She would announce that next week there's going to be a mixed tag match because of what's been taking place over the last few weeks with Davey Richards, Angelina Love, Eddie Edwards, Alicia Edwards. Next week it is going to be a mixed tag match with those four. So that's another big match set for next week. We had, of course, we had another segment with in the ongoing feud between Josh Matthews and Jeremy Borash. This time around, Jeremy came out basically announced that because with the help of his attorney, he has been reinstated to Impact Wrestling, to the commentary team. Josh Matthews, of course, not happy about this. Basically asked who Jeremy's attorney was. Borash would announce his attorney as none other than Joseph Park. Yeah, folks, they're going back to the whole Joseph Park gimmick thing again. So Joseph Park came out, would just basically talk to Josh Matthews. Basically, this would lead to a challenge by Joseph Park for a tag match at Slammiversary, with Joseph Park and Jeremy Borash teaming up to face Josh Matthews and a partner of his choosing. So that should be intriguing to see what happens going into Slammiversary. My honest opinion on this whole feud, I don't really care for this feud very much. It's pretty much it. I mean, it's nothing really exciting as far as this feud is concerned. So, we had EC3 versus James Storm. This one was resulted because of what happened last week with Storm and EC3, and EC3 whipping James Storm with a strap. This matchup was okay. It ended in a disqualification victory for James Storm because EC3 went after the referee and started whipping him with a strap. Magnus would get involved. He would attack James Storm. This would lead to Bruce Pritchard announcing next week a triple threat match with EC3, Magnus, and James Storm to kind of help determine what's the main event for Slammiversary. Who knows how that's going to affect it. Maybe one of these three next week win and they go on to face Lashley for the title. Who knows? Basically, Bruce Pritchard then would cut a promo on EC3. Then this would end with EC3 throwing Bruce Pritchard down to the mat and then walking away. So that was it. So that is another huge match next week. Storm, EC3, Magnus in a triple threat. We had ODB challenging Siena for the GFW women's title. This was another okay match. I mean, how is ODB, nothing against ODB, but how is she getting these title shots? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like she lost a couple weeks ago to Rosemary in her Knockouts title match, and now she's having a Knockouts title, or not a women's title match for the GFW women's title against the champion Siena. So, I don't know. They don't have a lot of women in Impact Wrestling right now, and I think that's what's hurting their division. And another problem that I have with the whole, I mean, I don't have a problem with the whole GFW women's title merger, or GFW and Impact Wrestling merger, but I think I think it has to do with that whole, they're putting emphasis on the GFW titles as well as, and not as much as on the Impact Wrestling titles. That's what I'm basically trying to say. Like I said, I mean, I don't have a problem with the merger with Impact Wrestling and GFW. It's just that's as far as the titles are concerned. That it seems like they're putting more emphasis on not as much emphasis on the Impact Wrestling titles as they are on the GFW titles since they came into the picture. But I digress. But Siena retained the GFW women's title, And then, of course, we had the X Division title on the line in an Ultimate X match. A solid main event. It was the champion Low Ki, Trevor Lee, and Andrew Everett. All three of these guys left it out in the ring. As far as the winner is concerned, Low Ki once again retaining the X Division title. In what was a solid main event. I thought it was a pretty solid main event for the X Division title. So Low Ki retained. Overall, my thoughts on Impact. There were the opening match as well as the main event. I thought were very good matches. There was continuations or not continuations, but build-ups in feuds going further into next week and beyond. But overall, my thoughts on Impact I thought were actually pretty good. So with that being said, if you guys watched Impact last night, let me know what you guys thought of it in the comments below. This has been my Impact Wrestling recap for last night's episode of Impact. As always, I am Brian, and thank you for watching.